Hello and welcome to episode 94. This is Mark again. Howdy y'all. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back, Mark.
Thanks. This is Mark. Howdy, y'all.
Pretty accurate.
What do you mean it's good to have me back? I was here last
Oh,
week.
that's true.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
you kind
we
of-
messed up the continuum here.
We did. But, considering you messed up the continuum last week when you did the whole, hey, this is Mark too. I mean...
I'm also Mark.
I'm also the same Mark.
That's just how I talk.
Yeah.
No, totally.
This is also Mark. How you guys doing?
Good, Mark. It was good to hear your mea culpa last week on your list being a little wrong, but
Yeah,
I appreciated it.
It was tough to make that list.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Frozen North Gaming Podcast.
Howdy, y'all!
What's up?
Wow. Just
Dang.
jump right in there. My name is JJ, and I'm here with, I'm here with one good buddy of mine who you just heard. His name is Mark.
Yep, I already said howdy.
But you didn't, say... Well, you did say hi, I guess, in a way. All right, carry on. And Brian.
I'm also human.
True enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Excellent. Well, anytime.
Can't argue with that.
Oh, boy.
It's impossible to argue with that.
We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to do some what you've been playing. We're going to do some news, and we got a review of Silent Hill 2, and then we got our buddy Brian. We got our buddy Ryan from the SRM
It's like
joining us
Brian,
to
but
talk
you-
about Silent Hill 2.
To give you a fair shake, it's like Brian. You just dropped the B and you got Ryan.
Drop the B.
You got the B!
Well, why don't we go ahead and get into what you've been playing? So, Mark, what you been playing?
Hold on, I'm shutting down this PC because it's overheating.
That's not...
That's not a... Is that a game?
I'll tell you what I've been playing. I've been playing the recliner in my living room while Shanna plays Silent Hill 2.
Tisk task. Risk task.
That was one of the stipulations of Mark playing through Silent Hill 2 was that he didn't actually have to play it. He just wanted...
It's too
Shanna to
scary.
play it.
It is very scary.
How do you feel about radio static now?
I mean, I have some theories.
I
think
just
you-
mean oh my god.
I think you have to be playing it to...
I know what you want me to say, JJ.
I just mean it's scary, that's all.
It's spooky, man.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to get you to say, you goob. It wasn't deeper than that.
It always is,
Typical.
man.
Typical.
I'm not your little puppet who's just
Topical.
going to say what you want. Except for last week.
That's true. Last week you said exactly what I wanted you to say. So that's pretty much it. Silent Hill 2.
Yep.
Cool. I've been playing a little bit of Star Ocean, and I'm finally about to beat. I never finished it, but Final Fantasy Legend 1 on the original Game Boy. Very close to the very end.
Boom.
That game is a grind fest. Holy crap. And I don't like it because you have durability on all your weapons, and it's really annoying.
Oh, yeah.
And No Man's Sky, which came out. It's a very well-built game. It's just very, very repetitive. Honestly, I say this stuff, and I'm like, what were you expecting, dude? It's
Yeah.
exactly what I expected. And then I played it, and I was like, yep, this is what I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be.
We've been calling it for
We'll go
a year
over
at
we'll
least.
go over some of that stuff in the news. There's been a lot of anger,
Yeah.
rightfully so in this instance. Normally, I decry internet anger over games because usually it's nitpicky, but this time I actually do kind of think, man, they didn't do themselves any favors by their messaging.
Oh, no. There's no forgiving it, but people don't need to be mad.
No, but
Just
I'm saying like
don't buy the game if you
Right.
don't
Well,
think
we'll
it
get
looks
into it
good.
in the news.
yeah. Well, the news
so-
is I'm going to go over some of the stuff.
And then a little bit of World of Warcraft as well. Right?
Pretty much full bore on World of Warcraft, gearing up for Legion coming out. Yeah, that's about it. There's some invasions of Azeroth happening, and the XP in there is ridiculous. So I'm
Yeah, very
leveling
much.
my monk, so I'll have if once he hits 100, I'll have a tank, a melee DPS, a ranged DPS character, and then a healer character. So I gotta have the quad core processor of characters.
Solid.
Yep. So that's about it.
As always, we appreciate your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Just tell us what's on your mind, what you've been playing, what you think of our show, anything. You can shoot us an email over at frozennorthpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website at fngaming.net. Our Facebook is facebook.com/thefrozennorth. Our Twitter is @fnpodcast. Our blog is frozennorthpodcast.blogspot.com. Our YouTube is Frozen North Gaming, where you can get episodes a day early. I usually upload those on Sundays as opposed to Mondays. And we are on iTunes, where you can subscribe to and rate us, which we would appreciate. So since we're gonna have Ryan on later on in the show, we're gonna do a quick review of Silent Hill 2, just kind of as a whether we recommend it or not, whether we liked it or not. But I mean, those of you that have listened to the show and you've heard when Ryan's on, the discussion is always like super deep, and the guy is just so knowledgeable that I guarantee you he's gonna have so many more things to say about it than we could even possibly fathom. But so we'll kind of try and keep this short and sweet, and then we'll get into news, and then we'll get Ryan on and rock it out. So Silent Hill 2 on PlayStation 2, developed and published by Konami. Mark, you just finished it. I finished it about a year ago, I think, for the first time as well.
Yeah.
Since you kind of had just had a really, really recent playthrough, what can you give us kind of just a really rough overview of the plot?
All right, so in Silent Hill 2, you're playing as James Sutherland, I think? Sunderland?
I don't remember the last name.
I think it's Sutherland.
You might be right.
Who has returned to Silent Hill because a letter from his wife, who he believes has been dead for 3 years, arrived and said she would meet him at their special place. You arrive in this beautiful lakeside town to find it completely covered in fog to the point where you can barely see 3 feet in front of you.
Yep.
And quickly realize that things are not what they seem, and something's gone horribly wrong.
And then you just kind of explore the town and try to put pieces together. You meet some other people in there, and it's almost like the whole time I remember just wondering, like, is this real or is it all in his head? Kind of one of those. And, you know, when you get to the end of the game, there's plenty of different endings and stuff like that, and it's just very, 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 very good storytelling. In that, like, you just get these little tiny clues and you kind of piece them together as you move along in the story, which I really liked. So let's get into pros.
Whew, man, there's a lot of pros. Well, I guess you could call them pro-cons.
Yeah, depending on what you like.
I would say that the sound design is the biggest pro-con.
Hands down.
Because it is incredible, but it's way too scary.
It really is, and I mentioned that before. Like, if you play the game and you know what I'm talking about, anytime I hear radio static now, I just kind of like, because it creeps me out. Because you hear radio static and you know something's coming around the corner. Mm-hmm. It was just so creepy, but it was very, very well done.
And then there's also like they have this weird sound design where like pinpoint areas that you go through will have this weird, just unidentifiable sound that creeps you completely out. And it doesn't mean anything, but it really gets you.
This unsettling noise
every time. Like, you go through this one choke point and you just hear it for a second. You're like, I'm not going back there ever again.
The atmosphere in general, I think, would be a pro. I think it's so creepy. And honestly, if I were James, I would just be like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm leaving.
Well, and that's also what makes it creepy, is obviously any sane person would leave immediately.
Right.
But James doesn't act like a sane person.
Very true.
You might think he is at first, but you quickly realize the way he reacts to the things that are happening, he's not sane at all.
Very true. Very true. But I think the whole intro scene with the fog and running up the path.
Yeah.
You kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. You keep expecting something to jump out at you at the beginning, and there's nothing there. You're totally safe. You're totally fine. Mm-hmm. But it's just so eerie. It's really something that you need to experience. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but once you do it, then you're like, oh my gosh, it's just very, very well produced.
They definitely understand fear in this, like in the game design in this game.
Definitely.
I don't know if this is a spoiler. You can cut it out if it is. But the part near the end where you're at the hotel finally and you have to use an elevator and you
Yeah.
realize that you can't use the elevator until you get rid of all the items in your inventory and put them on a shelf.
Yep.
And you have to go through an area with nothing, like you're starting the game fresh again.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a spoiler. I would just call it like kind of a way to maybe solve a small puzzle that was pretty easy to solve anyways.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have to do it, yeah, it's like, okay, now, and you do get your items back.
Right.
But you have to go through the fun house first.
Yeah. You have to go through like 5 or 6 different rooms, and there's monsters down there, and
Completely
all you can do is
defenseless.
run
Yep.
and try and find where you're going.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, you're right. Oh, that was brutal. Anything else for pros? I mean, the game itself is just so good, and it's kind of one of those where it's the complete package.
I would say for most of the game, the voice acting was a pro, because it's bad voice acting. I'm just going to get that out of the
It
way.
is. I
It's
agree.
bad voice
an
acting.
old game, so-
But the bad voice acting works when you think all the characters are insane.
Agreed. I was going to say that because that's exactly how I felt through it.
Yeah.
I remember because I'm not a big person on voice acting at all, but I remember playing it and being like, "Oh god, this is cringeworthy." Kind of hearing the first couple of times and stuff.
Whether you pair it up with those crazy eyes they all have.
Right. Like even if you just like watch the opening the intro scene before you hit start on the main menu.
Yeah.
Where what's her face, the girl is like talking to the camera, I think.
Well, yeah, we'll just go with that
Okay.
because of spoilers.
But like you're just like, man, this voice acting is terrible, and then you kind
Yeah.
of just, along with the actual video and the characters on screen, it works. It's again hard to explain, but it's something you need to experience.
It's something, the way I view it is, or the way I choose to view it to make it work, is there are a bunch of sociopaths who are trying to pretend like they have the right emotions.
That's a
That
good way
makes
to put
really
it.
Yep.
creepy.
That's a good way to put it.
It would be psychopaths.
Oh, sociopath.
Sociopaths have emotions. Psychopaths they lack the ability for emotion.
All right.
Cool. High five.
That's not a high five. That was
High
a
five.
fist bump.
Cons.
That was a good high five.
Cons?
Cons, it's too scary.
You dork.
It's not a big issue, but like obviously they were pushing the PlayStation 2 and the engine, so
Yeah.
it works as a gameplay device, the low visibility all the time wherever you are, but sometimes it's like, oh, come on, guys. And the way the camera angles flip around and disorient you is it's a gameplay device and it works and it's good, but every once in a
Yeah.
while it kind of pisses you off.
There's a lot of that kind of. I mean, like you said it perfectly earlier. Like almost everything in this game is a pro con because
Yeah.
I think even the stuff that I would find negative or didn't like about it were conscious design decisions.
Exactly.
Like actually the controls. When you first start out, if you don't put it on loose camera, you're gonna have really weird controls.
We didn't.
Oh, you kept it the same?
Yeah.
Oh no, I couldn't do it. Ryan actually had told me to do it, and I just couldn't because I couldn't figure out where I was going and that stuff. So you guys did better than I did apparently. And also and again, this is another conscious design decision. I think without a guide, trying to find your way around, it's very easy to get lost.
Yeah.
And because some of the items you have to really look hard, or double, triple check places that you may have been to already. And I get it. You're supposed to kind of be wandering around, not knowing what's going on. But as a gamer, and especially if you're a gamer today, where you're used to that instant gratification and everything's coming at you a million miles a minute, it might be a little daunting to go back to something like this and have the patience to actually sit back, look through, and not only look at trying to find physical items in game and trying to solve these puzzles and stuff. Even the storytelling itself, it's very very subtle, and you have to kind of make your own interpretations in a lot of situations. Like when you sent me that message, you're like, "Is Pyramid Head having sex with a mannequin?"
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things like, what the heck? Why is that even in the game? But then you think about it in the context of the game and everything, and again, it's one of those where you have to come up with your own interpretations, and make it fit, I guess, into the narrative yourself. I think it does. It depends a lot on the player's emotions going into it as well, which is probably why none of these characters are relatable at all. It's not like something you can be like, oh, James, I totally get that guy. Yeah, absolutely. No. No, these are all crazy, freaky, weird people, and you're kind of just watching it unfold, but it hits you in a way, frankly, like I've never seen before in a game. It's very, very, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just
metaphorical, metaphysical.
Yeah, it really is. So I don't know. I think, and again, for the third time, Mark said it beautifully. Almost everything in this game can be considered a pro-con, because anything that you might not like, I pretty much guarantee you it was a conscious decision that they made to do it that way.
Yeah.
So, anything else you think that would be considered a flat-out con, though?
No, I can't think of anything. I have one more pro that I just thought of.
Oh,
going back, non-linear
gameplay.
The way the multiple ending system works in this game is fantastic, and more games need to do it. And by that I mean the way it works is there's no discrete choices. There's nothing that specifically clues you in that you're making choices that will impact the ending. It's just non-obvious choices that you'll make throughout the game that slowly determine James's state of mind and which ending you're going to get.
Cool. And that's another reason you shouldn't play with a guide as well.
Yeah.
So because, depending on where you go, what items you find, and I want to say even like in some cases like the order of things, that's going to hit you with a different ending. And some of the, I looked up the endings after I finished. Some of them are weird.
There's 2 joke endings you can get after you play through the game once.
Right.
They're pretty fantastic. I watched them this morning.
Cool. So, I mean, combat, there really wasn't much to it other than just like...
On easy, yeah. On easy, the bosses were super easy.
Right, yeah.
I watched the video, and it looks like it's a little more difficult when you up the challenge, but it's pretty basic. Point and shoot.
It's really not that bad on normal either. So, well, I mean, do you recommend it?
Is there something wrong with the remastered version? Because you both told me I need to play the PlayStation 2 version.
I've only played the PlayStation 2 version. I honestly don't know. Ryan said he could probably explain it a little bit better when we have him on. Mm-hmm. But he said there is a reason to play the original more. So we'll just ask him when he gets back on. But that's the way he made it out. Because I actually bought the remastered version, and then he was like, "Oh crap, I should have told you don't do that." And I was like, "Oh, I'm a collector anyways. I'll just pick them both up. Who cares?"
Nice. So, I would say if you can reasonably secure a copy, then you should absolutely play it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those big hard hitting moments in gaming history that even if you're not a huge fan, like I like the game, I enjoyed my time with it. I probably won't go back and play it ever again, but I feel like I definitely got another side of gaming that I didn't even know could be achieved.
Yeah,
just by the storytelling with this. So it's very, very cool.
It's definitely eye opening.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The fact that, like, even if it doesn't sound like your cup of tea, just for the history fact alone, it's only, how long did it take you to beat? Like 8 hours?
It took us like 9.5.
9.5? Okay, still. Under 10-hour game. So it's not like it's going to take you, a month and a half to beat or something like that. So you guys did it in, about a week?
Yep.
Week. Yeah, and I did it probably in about the same time, about 7-8 hours. So that there's really no reason not to play it unless, you can't get a hold of it for some reason. But, yeah, I recommend it as well. Cool. And again, we'll have Ryan on later on the show, and he's going to probably blow our minds a lot more than Mark and I just did.
It'll be a spoiler cast, I imagine.
Yeah, which I'm okay with. Either way. Brian, what do we got for news this week, sir?
Okay, so No Man's Sky came out, and people are upset. So they were playing a Koi game. Mark actually had caught on to this, where multiplayer. They kept being asked, "Can we meet other?" There had to be there were obviously servers because you had to. The people got into the nitty gritty, and the servers were talking to each other. So there was online capabilities, obviously. So they asked, "Well, can you see other players?" And their response was, "Well, you can, but the universe is so vast, it's probably never going to.
You'll probably never run into another real player.
Never happen. It's too big." That was their answer. And And Mark smelled some BS when that was said, and then I kind of was like, well, that makes sense mathematically. Maybe that's true.
They're trying to sell a game. If they have a feature, they'll
Yep.
brag
So
about it.
so that this was a feature that they didn't deny. That they, in fact, they kind of confirmed. Unfortunately for them, saying, well, you'll probably never see one is a confirmation of. It's an indirect way of saying, yeah, that's multiplayer, but you probably won't meet somebody up, right? So then the game came out, and within 24 hours, 2 streamers actually were close to. They figured out they were close enough in the universe to meet up, and they did on the same planet.
I found a planet in my game that was actually discovered by somebody else too.
Yep, and because that's where the servers talk, right? Because you can name plants, animals, and discoveries and planets and stuff like that, and then it gets uploaded to the server of that location. Because everything's procedural in the game, so the destruction that JJ does on the planet that he names isn't going to be seen by somebody else because just the name is, which is fine. But they let everyone. So these people that met up on this planet, they couldn't see each other. Okay, so then they tweeted like, "Hey, we're here. We're like right on the same location, but we don't see each other." And instead of just saying "mea culpa," "oops, we're really sorry, it's not a feature in the game yet," they said, "Oh, it's server issues. It's lagging."
Oh boy,
yeah. So I just want to say this: I canceled my pre-order when they kept delaying the PC release. I had a bad feeling. Typically, when PC releases are pushed back further than the console, it's because they're having trouble optimizing it, and I wasn't wrong. It is very bad, in bad shape on the PC right now. But the news story I'm talking about here is just, man, I know you're trying to sell games, and I know that's a business strategy, but that's lying. Like, literally lying. It's misleading the people. So I don't know if I'll buy the game now. Like, I probably, if it's $5 on Steam, I might pick it up later on. But, dude, I can't ever trust anything that company says anymore. Like, that's what happens. You lose all that credibility. If you would have just said, like, no, that's not a feature yet, but we'll add it, that's 100% better than being coy.
Yeah.
I wasn't pissed off, but I was really like, man, what are you guys doing? Like, what is happening? Why would you do that? Anyway, I'll probably pick the game up eventually here in a year or so when it's deeply discounted and check it out, but I have no desire to play it at this point.
What they did was wrong, and you're not wrong to hold them accountable.
Right.
But you might give them a second chance at some point.
Because
Because don't forget what Gabe Newell did with Half-Life 2. That was a much bigger lie.
very true. And
It'll be out in a week.
Right.
Actually, it'll be out in over a year.
That's very true. And I just, the problem is now I can't trust what they're going to say. I can't be, if they're like, oh man, no man, this guy's getting this cool new feature. I'm going to be like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, anyway.
Definitely shakes your confidence.
That's the big one I had today. There's a couple of small articles. So EA has been all over this. We're moving on now to the next story. EA's been all over this whole, like, we're going to remaster stuff. We're never going to remaster stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Well, now they're thinking about remastering the Mass Effect trilogy, which
of course they are.
Which is right up my alley.
It looks so good already.
I would love to see.
You gonna replay it?
If they remaster the Mass Effect 1, I'll do a full replay. Like if it's a really good remaster, if it's
change the gameplay, get rid of all the
bugs,
Mako stuff.
Yep. If they do like an actual, if they just
change the inventory,
if they just make it extra HD, because it's already an HD game. It came out on 360, so it's already got I think it's 720p capabilities and stuff like that. So they need to do a real overhaul on the first game. The other two are fine. They can just kind of give it some new paint, and then I'll play those again. But yeah, if they really go ham on that first one, I'll do another playthrough. I'll do FemShep playthrough.
And hopefully they give us a value, like it's a 3-pack for $60.
Correct.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, exactly. Not like, hey, it's 3 remastered games for $120. Like, pass. So that's exciting. It's just a rumor right now. They're kind of mulling that over. I think they'd be really smart to do that, but they'd need to really, really put into some time on Mass Effect 1 because that's the redheaded stepchild, I think, of the trilogy. And then 2 other little small tidbits. So Final Fantasy 15, if you haven't already heard, has been delayed from September 30th. To is it November 29th now?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So 2 months?
2-month delay. Their reasoning is as you would expect. So I dove into one of the articles and it's not ready yet. They would have had to have put a like sizable day one patch out if they did do the 29th or the 30th release of
The
September.
old GTA 5.
Like a huge one, and they were like, "Man, we'd rather like." So there's still probably going to be a day one patch, but it'll be much smaller.
That's actually not 100%.
Is that not accurate?
Though. It is to a certain extent. At least this is what they said. So there was going to be a day one patch regardless. The game was
Right.
finished. They said it was good. We're ready to release it. But then apparently the director heard that there were a lot of people who apparently play without internet, and he was like, "We're doing a serious disservice to these people who don't have internet if we can't get them this day one patch.
Right.
They're going to be playing an unfinished game because it isn't 100% what we feel the game should be."
Right. They'd be playing a lesser version.
Right. So they're going to try and include everything on the disc. I mean, to a certain extent, I think that's admirable. You know, and they're helping these people
And they
out.
did say that there's still going to be a patch when it comes out on the 30th.
Sure.
It's just going to be. It's not going to be as massive.
Integral?
Yeah, exactly. And that was their whole goal, which is cool. Hey, look, if you have to delay your game a couple months to shore it up, make sure everybody's going to enjoy it, that's fine. It's
What's 2 months at this point?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm okay with it.
It's
A lot
fine.
of people are making a way bigger deal out of it than they
It's
should.
because it's so anticipated, and I get it. But man, I'd rather be done and good than like, you know, I wish the No Man's Sky on PC had to just been like, we're gonna pull this, we're gonna get this done, we'll release it later this year when it's great. Like instead, they try to release it in a chat and shambles, and that's always bad. So that's your Final Fantasy 15 delay news, and then if you guys didn't see, Konami's back.
Oh, hold on, real quick. You know what? You know what really grinds my gears?
Go.
I'm buying the $270 freaking deluxe collector's super
Yep.
fun time Kawasaki Kamehameha edition,
With
and
Bump Up Chicken.
they're adding a freaking. They're doing a season pass, not included. Not included.
Oh,
Got to buy the secret season pass separately for the DLC.
What?
Yep.
that's messed up.
That's actually kind of bullcrap.
Like, I'm spending $270, guys. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Help
that's-
me out here.
Yeah, that seems like a money grab, to be quite honest with you. Wow.
Anyways,
Okay, well,
go on with the chlorophyll.
so hey guys, Konami is back in the gaming news.
Oh, they make games?
They made Silent
They-
Hill 2.
they
a long
are
time ago.
actually going to be making Metal Gear Survive. You guys seen this trailer yet?
Yep.
There's a trailer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a real thing.
I haven't seen the trailer.
So this game is actually going to, according to Konami,
Is it a pachinko machine?
It looks like Metal Gear Left 4 Dead.
it's exactly what it is. So this game is so they're getting a ton of flack by Metal Gear faithful because it is like the biggest departure. It's like taking, you know how JJ said Final Fantasy 13 was a big departure from the Final Fantasy series.
Yep.
This is like
Not
taking
just me that says
this.
that.
Whole, you know what
Just
I mean?
JJ.
No, do you know what I mean though? Like a lot of fans were like, "Oh, that's not Final Fantasy, right?" Well,
Yes.
this would be like if Final Fantasy 13 was like a side scroller Metroidvania game that came out, just completely
Don't give
different.
Square any ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
So Metal Gear Survive is, according to Konami, taking place between Metal Gear Ground Zeroes and 5. It's a bridge to 5, and mind you, in an alternate reality.
Well, that certainly fills in the gaps.
And it's basically like a zombie survival, like hack 'em slash 'em. Just
It's co-op.
what? It's the first Metal Gear Solid that'll be coming out. Metal Gear that'll be coming out without Hideo Kojima's backing. So, good luck to you.
Well, he like even before the fourth one, he said he wanted to retire from the series.
True.
But
I think Konami should just pull
They
out of the
probably
gaming
still wanted
business
to-
altogether and just go to do pachinko machines.
yeah, they need to exactly.
Yeah.
They should just license out those properties to someone
Correct.
who actually cares about them.
I think they realized that licensing those in the pachinko world doesn't really give
Yeah,
them-
the people who play pachinko don't
play it.
care about.
I think they're realizing like, oh, all of our properties that we're famous for don't really transition well. What do we do? Let's just make
Degenerate
games.
gamblers don't
Yeah.
care about popular
Yeah.
video games.
Exactly. Oh man, I'm gonna go play the Metal Gear Solid pachinko. No, that doesn't matter. They'll play fairies and mushrooms if it makes them money.
Yeah,
Fairies and mushrooms.
Yep.
I'll play that quadricorn.
Yeah. So Metal Gear Survive trailer. Watch it. Look at it. Look at it with your face, and then take a look at it.
That was weird.
And that's your news, guys. That's your news. I'm Brian, and I'm your news guy. I'm a news guy. I'm a news guy. News guys need
Solid.
news guys too.
News guys need nude guys?
News guys.
That's definitely what I heard.
That is what I heard.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
All right, well, thank you, Brian. All right, let's get Ryan in here. Let's talk some Silent Hill 2.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
That's
Nope.
not
Dang
that's
it.
not true at all. All right, take it away, us. All right, and we are here with Ryan of the Sweet Good and Revival Movement. Those of you that have been longtime listeners of the show, you'll recognize his voice, and you'll always know that he's got great stuff to say and great insight. And we got him here for a non-Suikoden related episode. We're going to be talking about, I know, right? Silent Hill 2. We know he's a really big fan, so we got him on to kind of give some insight and to talk about a few things. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Hello, guys. This is my 4th time back now. Well, 5th if you want to count the contributor episode I did a couple of months ago.
That's true.
But it's always good to be back, and I am a huge Silent Hill fan. Not as much as Suikoden, but Silent Hill 2 is definitely one of my favorite games of all time, and you'll hopefully learn why today, everyone.
Cool. I mean, we're Mark and I just kind of got done talking about our short little review a little bit ago. But I think Mark had some questions because he just finished it up last night. Right?
Yeah.
There was one question that I actually wanted to open up with that we asked on the show, and we said we were going to ask you.
Yeah.
You had told me when you first recommended that I play the game like a year ago or so, whenever it was. If you remember, you said to play it, and then I went and bought the remastered version, and then you were like, "Oh crap! I should have told you not to get that one." And I was trying to remember why it was that I should have played I did eventually get the original, and that's the one I let Mark borrow as well. But what was the big difference between the two?
Well, basically, the remastered version had redone voice acting with anime ADR voice actors. ADR is additional dialogue recording, and what it is it's just going over something that's already been pre-made and adding in dialogue. Whereas the original, I think the voice acting is much superior, and we may get into why later, though it's kind of a minor point. But the ADR in the remake is terrible. It's just awful, because ADR is an inherently inferior process to having actors live in a studio acting against one another. Because as they say, acting is reacting. And in the original, these actors are in the studio together, they're reacting against one another, and it makes it not necessarily the best voice acting ever, but very believable.
Authentic, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very authentic. And also, the remaster originally had many graphical errors with the fog, which is obviously a huge part of the game. I mean, the fog is just massively important in how the game plays out. And other graphical errors and such like that. And in the end, the PS2 version is just superior. Completely superior.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, like, if you can only play the HD remaster, that's totally fine. It's still the same game. And you can actually intentionally choose the original dialogue, the original voice acting, which is superior. But it does have a few graphical errors still, even after it's been patched. And in the end, the original is just how you want to do it. So
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Mark?
All right. So this question's probably way too much to break off this early on, but okay, I'll just go for it. So I've read a lot about what the different monsters symbolize, but one thing I didn't see was what the settings symbolize, and specifically I'm thinking about in the hospital. You go to the hospital, it's kind of run down a little bit, and then some stuff happens, and you return to the hospital, and it's way more run down, way worse off. The same thing happens at the hotel at the end of the game, and I was wondering what kind of symbolism that plays, if you have a theory on that.
Okay, that's one of the instances where playing through the first game helps a lot, because the first game, just to give you kind of a basic rundown of what happened, is essentially a woman named Dahlia Gillespie ran an evil cult. I kid you not. This is, it almost sounds like a completely different series, but ran an evil cult in the town of Silent Hill, the resort town of Silent Hill, that distributed an addictive hallucinogenic drug to the people in order to free an evil spirit that had existed within the town for a long time. And that cult effectively gets wiped out throughout the events of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it was slightly effective in allowing the evil force to kind of come out of its shell a little bit and break its bonds. And so when Silent Hill 2 starts, James enters the town and he doesn't know what's going on, and neither does the player if they haven't played the first game. But in the first game, effectively what was going on is the town was kind of overriding reality and turning into alternative versions of itself based on the nightmares of one of the characters. Okay? And when Silent Hill 2 shifts into what's sometimes called the Dark World, but
that's right.
Hardcore fans don't really like that term. They like calling it the alternative world. When it shifts into the alternative world, it's effectively James's greatest nightmares given form by the town. And so that's really what's going on. And that's what's going on when you hear the air raid siren.
Interesting.
Playing during the game. And the air raid siren plays a huge role in the first game, not so much in the second.
Kind of reminds me of the Upside Down in Stranger Things, because the same kind of like corruption looking stuff all over the walls, and it's kind of cool. Maybe that's where they got it from.
Probably,
yeah.
Because Silent Hill 2 is very influential.
Yeah.
Even in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they made the movie, right? The Silent Hill movie, which wasn't very good in my opinion, but you know.
Silent Hill 1, actually, like just from the plot that you described, it sounds a little bit, Mark, if you remember, it sounds almost like the plot of, or similar to the plot of Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly.
Yeah.
With the city in the middle of the woods that's, overcome with evil because of the sacrifices and just a lot of weird rituals and stuff. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, well, Silent Hill 1 is a really good game, especially for its era. I remember playing it, and it was really terrifying back in the PS1 era for many reasons. Nowadays, it's not quite so terrifying because you can pretend that it's just the adventures of Lego Man in Tetanus Town, right? Like its age kind of blunts its terror, but
I was hoping 2 would do that for me, and it didn't. It was still scary.
Yeah. 2 is awful in a great way, obviously.
Absolutely.
But
yeah. Any other questions, Mark?
Yeah, that was my main question.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, I mean, it's kind of an open forum, man. I mean, I know you. As soon as I told you I was done with the game, you kind of flooded me with your thoughts and everything. So I was like, all right, this guy's got some stuff to say. So I mean, take it away, man.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to talk about how I got into Silent Hill.
Oh yeah, by all means.
Basically, this is kind of a funny story. When the PS2 came out, I was one of those people who waited from like 3 a.m. in the morning, till the stores opened, and waited in line and got my PS2 because I was an idiot. And then after I bought it, I realized there were no good games for it. So I ended up buying a PS1 title called Silent Hill, and was just blown away by the first one at that point. And then when Suikoden 3 came out, I went to the store to go buy it. And lo and behold, Silent Hill 2 was sitting there almost next to it on the shelf, right? Because they both begin with S and they're both Konami games. And I played Suikoden 3 and Silent Hill 2 back to back. Oh, wow. And it was absolutely amazing. Let me tell you, I thought that gaming was entering a new golden age of narrative, led the way by Konami, because I was an idiot at the time. I was very naive, in fact. But you can understand why I would think that, right?
Sure, absolutely. Those two games back to back?
Yeah. I mean, they're two of the greatest narratives in gaming history, in my opinion, and you can see how much of an impact this had on me as a gamer and as an appreciator of art.
Definitely,
for sure. But talking about Silent Hill 2 in particular, I think the best place to start, even though there are many places to start, is probably with the monsters. I know I like to pick on Skyrim a lot, but I'm going to pick on Skyrim one more time here.
Yes.
I like to say that Bethesda games like Skyrim or Elder Scrolls or Fallout, I like to say that they are a mile wide but an inch deep. You know what I'm saying?
I
saying
100% know what you're
gameplay?
saying. Yep, I say the same thing, not the exact same words, but I absolutely.
Yeah. The thing is with Silent Hill, it sure ain't a mile wide, but it is insanely deep. Like, once you start plumbing the depths of this game, you will be shocked at how far it can go. Just like Suikoden, and that's why I think Silent Hill series in general and Silent Hill 2 in particular are really some of the only games that I've played that are in the same ballpark as Suikoden in terms of game narrative. The best place to start, I suppose, or one place to start, is the monsters. Like, and we could talk about the main character, James Sunderland, and his relationship with the monsters, because the monsters aren't there really to kill him. It doesn't really seem, half the monsters are just stumbling around aimlessly, right? They don't even seem to be hunting him actively. It's almost like James is just getting in their way, and then they decide to attack him whenever they feel like it.
Yep.
One of the first monsters you meet in the game, for example, is a monster called the Mannequin. And really what it is it appears to just be two lower halves of a mannequin from the waist down, stacked on top of one another, with the legs facing in different directions. One set of legs facing up and one set of legs facing down. And all of the monsters in the Silent Hill games are always, in a certain extent, quite literally inner demons, right? They are produced by characters in the game based on those characters' own fears and their own guilt. So in Silent Hill 1, we were not actually facing the main protagonist's inner demons. We were actually facing the inner demons of his daughter in the first game. Mm-hmm. In Silent Hill 2, though, we are most certainly facing James Sunderland's inner demons. And one of the most important metaphor concerning the mannequin is effectively that the mannequin has no extremities where it should have hands and no body where it should have a body. It's literally just genitals and limbs stacked on top of each other. And you'll note that when you first meet the mannequin enemy, there's actually an unmoving, normal mannequin to the side with James's dead wife's outfit, her clothes, hanging off of it. And then behind that, there's another enemy mannequin, right, which then attacks James as soon as he takes the flashlight from Mary's clothing. And effectively what the mannequin is the mannequin is a representation of James's own guilt concerning Mary, his own guilt concerning his wife and how she died. That the mannequin is in itself kind of cold and lifeless and doesn't have any hands where hands should be, almost as if to say that, the mannequin is a representation of James's own frustration at not being able to touch his wife, even though he's still sexually attracted to her because she was sick. As we learned, she was sick for 3 years in bed with presumably cancer or some other kind of consumptive disease.
Yeah.
Right? And this plays a lot into James's own sexual frustration about not being able to touch his own wife and not being able to make love to her, right? The mannequins are always cold and lifeless until James approaches them, and then they attack him, right? And it goes to show just how deeply they thought out the monsters here, because the monsters are not designed specifically to be disturbing, though they are highly disturbing. They're designed to represent parts of James's own guilt, the guilt that he carries and what he feels, the sins that he feels that he has committed. Another monster in the game is just the bobblehead nurse, which they totally misinterpreted in later Silent Hill games and later Silent Hill movies, right? The nurses in this game are highly sexualized in a messed up Silent Hill kind of way, right? They have they show cleavage, right? And they have these mini skirts, which are ridiculous because if you've ever seen an actual nurse, right?
It's more like a Halloween nurse.
Yeah, this is a Halloween nurse.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The important thing to remember is that James visited Mary regularly in the hospital while she was staying there for an extended period. And again, James's own sexual frustration may have come into play. He may have found himself enticed by the female form or attracted to a nurse who was there in the hospital, right? Helping his wife or what have you. But knowing what we know about James, what we learn about James throughout the rest of the game, he probably immediately crushed that thought under a brick ton of guilt and shame, right? And buried it deep within himself. And now the town is effectively just bringing this thought back out into the real world, right? This guilt and this shame that he may have felt at the time. And it's bringing it out in the form of this weirdly sexualized zombie nurse, in a very disturbing sense. And the monsters are brilliantly conceived. It reminds me very much of the work of the Danish philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, who wrote mostly in the early 1800s. Kierkegaard actually said, the ethical reality of the individual is the only reality. And this might seem to be a bit of an extreme statement, right? Because, there should be an external world. There should be real things that happen in real life.
Right.
But at the very least in Silent Hill, this is 100% true. The ethical reality of the individual is the only reality. So James's ethical reality is the reality that is projected by the town.
Interesting.
And it becomes literal reality around him. And that's what's going on. And it seems almost as if one of the most popular interpretations of the town is kind of a judge, jury, and executioner of people that it calls to it. But I actually disagree with this to a certain extent. I disagree with this fan theory. I actually think that the town really just serves as a source of some kind of evil supernatural energy. And it's the people who are called to the town who are literally just judging themselves through their own guilt, their own shame, and what they feel is their own sin.
Having to face their own demons, yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It's definitely completely self-inflicted considering he doesn't leave.
Yeah, exactly. And he gives the impression that he really has nothing else to live for other than seeing his wife Mary again, who's supposedly dead, right? Because there's nothing to stop him from just, fleeing over the nearest rusted chain link fence and just getting out of town. But he needs to see Mary, and he needs to work through what he has done. And that's one of the things that makes the game so very, very brilliant. And another way in which I think the game is really brilliant is the puzzle design. Note how the vast majority of the game's puzzle design is from the perspective of guilt, has themes of guilt and punishment, crime and punishment. For example, if you remember the puzzle with all of the criminals, quote-unquote criminals, hanging from nooses.
Oh, yeah.
And the point where you have to find the one innocent man who was wrongly charged in order to move forward.
That was a great part, yeah.
Yeah. But this harkens back, this echoes James's own internal guilt and his own wish to see himself freed of that guilt. And so it's almost like every single puzzle, when he unlocks a puzzle to move forward, he also unlocks a piece of his own mind that he has buried through neuropathy. That he is buried deep within himself and cannot express openly. Now, the big spoiler for Silent Hill 2, a game that's 14 years old. I'm going to go ahead and give it away because it makes it much easier to get through the rest of the game. James thinks that his wife died of a disease, and in a certain extent she did. But James effectively killed her when she was near the terminal state. He smothered her with a pillow. Yep. And it's not necessarily that this was a wrong action. It's not necessarily that this was bad because, in today's political spectrum, assisted suicide and euthanasia are large are issues of debate, right?
Definitely.
And I don't want to get into that. But the important thing is that James feels that this was wrong. James feels that this was a sin. Ergo, he feels guilty. Thus, the kind of evil energy of the town has something to exploit and bring to the surface for him to work through. Or perhaps perish. I mean, the other characters in the games, Eddie and Angela. Eddie goes completely insane by the end of the game.
Yeah.
He goes mad, and he admits to shooting people, if not killing them, at least shooting them. And we do know that he killed a dog at one point for barking at him. Eddie completely, his mind breaks underneath the town's strain of judgment. Angela accepts her fate of death and gives in to the idea that she herself sinned, which is probably not true at all, because the character of Angela, poor girl, she was, sexually assaulted and beaten by her father, right? And then in the end, she killed her father with arson while he was sleeping.
Yep.
And I think most of us would agree that this was self-defense, right? A form of self-defense.
Absolutely.
Angela's character in the game looks like she's in her late 20s or 30s, but in reality, she's actually 17, according to the game's manual.
Oh, wow.
She's only 17. And I think the reason that they did that was because they wanted to show how the stress of Angela's life has aged her beyond her years, right? She has these worry lines, and she's not perfect at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just really because of the situation that she has been in. But Angela, and the important thing is not necessarily whether or not Angela is innocent or guilty, as we would say. The important thing is that Angela herself feels guilty. Definitely. And she accepts her fate at the end. What she feels is her fate, and she burns to death.
And I kind of want to touch on that just really quick, because I think that's probably one of the things that I thought was just the coolest about the game itself. You're talking about James and how we find out that he had smothered his wife. Well, I remember when I was playing the whole time, because you kind of assume it earlier on in the game, like, I think he killed his wife. Like, holy crap. But you don't know the circumstances surrounding him.
Yeah.
You just, my mind went straight to, it was either an accident or he murdered her straight up and he just feels guilty about it. But then you actually get to the actual part about it, and it's like, there's just so much there to think about and so much that's up for interpretation that you as the player can decide, whether it was a good thing to do, a bad thing to do. But in the end, like you said, it comes down to how does James really feel about that. And I think that's just such an amazing dynamic, and you really don't see that in a lot of games.
Exactly. And there's no overarching morality. It's not like the town is God telling you that you are guilty.
Right.
In reality, the question of what sin is very much a theological and philosophical question. And it's up to each of us to find our own answers. And that is what the characters in this game do. They find their own answers for how to define their sin and how to deal with guilt. And I think that in some of the endings of the game, James, my favorite endings, because I'm a sucker for happy endings, I know.
I am too.
In my favorite endings of the game, James learns to forgive himself. He learns the power of forgiveness to assuage guilt.
Yeah.
Okay. And in, some of the other endings of the game, there's no forgiveness for James, right? Yeah. Especially in the Maria ending of the game, what's called the Maria ending of the game. But yeah, and this speaks to the true meaning of horror. And whenever I talk to people about what horror is, a lot of people, they talk about jump scares, they talk about horrible monsters and scary things. And,
right.
I would like to say that your interpretation of horror is correct because there is no wrong answer, you beautiful, unique snowflake. But unfortunately, no. No, not this time. Horror is not what we think it is. I think here in America, we've largely forgotten how to do horror. And I usually try to put it like this when I try to explain horror to people. For example, I am mostly Irish in my genetic makeup and my heritage. And there are no snakes on the entire island of Ireland, by the way. So a lot of Irish people like myself are actually scared of snakes because we just don't have to deal with it. Right? It's not something you deal with until you come here to America or something.
Right.
And I always use snakes as kind of like the jumping off point to say, okay, look, if you want to scare me, all you need to do is just hide a snake in a cupboard somewhere and have it jump out at me, right? I'll be scared. I'll be startled, to say. If you want to terrify me, you can gather an army of snakes and chase me around with them, right? And I'll be terrified.
Yeah.
But if you want to truly, truly horrify me, all you have to do is just convince me that I might be a snake myself. And that is the true nature of what horror is. And that is the true nature of what Silent Hill does. It's true horror in the sense that horror isn't something external. It's not something... It's not a serial killer chasing you around.
Right.
Like a lot of these slasher movies are, which I don't like slasher movies. But true horror comes from within, right? It's the realization that you yourself might actually be the bad guy. And when you wish for things like negative things like death and destruction, you might actually also be wishing for yourself to be destroyed. And that's what's going on with these characters in the game. They're consumed by guilt to the point where they themselves have convinced themselves that they are snakes. And that's what's going on in the game. Going back to Soren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, he also said, and I kid you not, this is actually what he said. He said, dread is an antipathetic sympathy and a sympathetic antipathy.
Whoa.
And I'll just let the audience bang their head against that for a while.
Rewind, replay.
Before I explain what he meant, effectively, a better way to state that maybe would be to say we are attracted to what repels us and repelled by what attracts us. For example, clowns. All sane people think that clowns are evil and scary, even though they're supposed to be happy, right? So what they are is they are the sympathetic antipathy. They are something that we are attracted to that also repels us. But also think about, perhaps standing at the top of a tall building and looking down. And there's just this small, tiny bit of yourself that knows that somewhere you have the freedom to just jump off if you wanted to and destroy yourself.
Definitely.
Not even necessarily a suicidal thing, but this kind of existential dread inside of yourself at your own freedom, right? You could destroy yourself if you wanted to. And that is the antipathetic sympathy. We're attracted to what repels us and repelled by what attracts us. And that's a prescient psychological insight from Soren Kierkegaard before the advent of modern psychology. And Silent Hill 2 obviously embodies this with its sexy monster nurses and slime beast hoedown, right?
Right.
I mean, a lot of the monsters are oddly sexualized in a way in order to, attract by what repels us, and that's one of the core philosophical principles of this series in general, and Silent Hill 2 in particular. And I think also the characters, to a certain extent, are attracted to what destroys them because they want to feel guilty and they want to be punished for what they've done. So Soren Kierkegaard was kind of a genius. And he heavily influenced this, as well as some other writers, some of the early existentialist writers like Charles Baudelaire, Blaise Pascal, who were both French, and also the Russian Fyodor Dostoevsky. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky is one of the big influences on this as well, where in Dostoevsky's novel, the main character kills someone who everybody hated. She was just like this evil witch, pretty much, who lived in this small Russian town. He kills her, and then he tries to convince himself that he did not do it. But at the end of the novel, he has to come to terms with what he has done.
Right.
Much like Silent Hill 2. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I think... I've talked about this with you before, Mark, for sure, is how much I don't like H.P. Lovecraft. And this is why. Because I don't think H.P. Lovecraft ever really understood this basic concept that dread is an antipathetic sympathy and a sympathetic antipathy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he went more for external horrors
Yeah.
coming at you, eldritch beings breaking through thresholds, and stuff like that, as opposed to kind of an internal horror. Whereas I think Poe understood this, Blaise Pascal understood this, Kierkegaard understood this, and Dostoevsky understood this. And Charles Baudelaire was probably the true inheritor of Poe's will in this regard, Edgar Allan Poe's will, as opposed to H.P. Lovecraft, both of those two coming after Poe. And I think the brilliant thing about Silent Hill is that it tends more towards the psychological and the existential rather than the external, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And to me, that's much better. There are other reasons not to like Lovecraft because he was terrible racist, and by all accounts, pretty much a horrible human being.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, in his own way, he was brilliant. I just prefer the Baudelaire Poe existential psychological horror as opposed to the external, eldritch beings type of horror.
There's more nuance there for sure.
Yeah. And that's what existentialism as a philosophy is in general. It's basically saying that change in the external world begins within ourselves, and we must make ourselves right before the external world can change, because the external world will always reflect the inner ethical reality of ourselves. And this is what Kierkegaard meant when he said that the ethical reality of the individual is the only reality. He didn't mean to say that there isn't an external reality. What he meant to say is that external reality of society and who we are is a reflection of who we are inside. And we can't change the world without first changing ourselves.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really feel like horror has lost its way in America because we focus so much on these external monsters and jump scares and things like that. But the odd thing is that we're one of the founders of that because obviously Edgar Allan Poe was an American. But for some reason along the way, we just seem to have forgotten it. Whereas I think Japan, Russia, and European nations tend to remember that deeply. And I think that's what makes their horror, as in general, better than ours.
I feel like part of that is, and we mentioned this about something earlier on in the show, I think that comes with a lot of what we deal with nowadays has to do with instant gratification. And so, like, the kind of horror that you're talking about, it really sinks in deep. And when you really start to think about it, you realize how truly terrifying it is. When you're talking about something as simple as a jump scare, it's like, boom, oh, I got him, I got him, got him, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of at least just thinking about it off the top of my head, that is a part of where that comes from.
Exactly. With that deep, real horror, there's something intangible, something that's hard to define, and that's way more scary than this creature in front of me.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny you guys mentioned that because you just totally reminded me of tons of things I want to talk about with those two statements. Those two brief statements probably will now spawn 45 minutes of ranting for me, so hold on. If you remember, the very first scene in the game is just this long pathway down to a graveyard
in
entering
the fog.
the town.
Yep.
You spend 15 minutes wandering in the fog before anything even happens. And what that is that's both a statement of patience on the part of the game designers and also a statement of loneliness on the part of the player. Right? It makes you feel truly, crushingly alone.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, and that's so much different than just jump scaring people. It's so much more difficult, but it's so much more rewarding in the end. And it gives kind of like a hint into Silent Hill 2's prescient psychological insight in this regard that we've talked about before. Also, the very first, one of the scariest moments in the game for me, and I don't know why, is the first time you meet Pyramid Head. He doesn't jump out at you. He doesn't do anything. What it is there's this hallway with some iron bars at the end, and you hear the radio static start going off, and then you walk up to him, and Pyramid Head is on the other side of these bars, and he's just standing there doing nothing, kind of in this red glow. And that's the first time you see Pyramid Head in the entire game. And most people would use Pyramid Head to just jump out at you and then, try to kill you or whatever. But for some reason, just seeing him stand there doing nothing is much more terrifying than having him just jump out at you.
It really is. Yeah.
And it goes to show just how much thought is put into this game. I know we talked about the camera before we started recording. The camera is the game's most common enemy, I like to say. Much more common than lying figures and mannequins. But essentially, the camera controls are designed to take control away from the player, right? It's to give you enough control to move through the game and, finish all the obstacles that are put in the player's path. But if you give so much control over the camera to the player, you give control to the player, ergo the player feels like they are in control, ergo they cannot be horrified. Thus, the camera behaves as erratically and terribly as it does, as an intentional game design choice by the designers in order to take control away from the player, to make the player feel like they are in less control of the situation that they are in. And I think that's a brilliant design choice and a very bold design choice because a lot of people complain about it. A lot of critics don't like it. I think it's brilliant. And it just goes to show how much thought was put into this game, like how much attention to detail they put in.
Well, then we'll just leave out the fact that I may or may not have changed it to regular controls when I started the game. Mark did not, though. Mark,
I didn't even know you could.
Yeah, they played it through as is. I just could not deal with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the first time I played through, I left it on the regular controls, and then I turned it to 3D controls or 2D controls on all my subsequent playthroughs because I actually like tank controls for horror games. Especially like if you ever played the first Onimusha, the first two Onimushas on PS2, you get really used to using tank controls, and it's a lot of fun. But for Silent Hill, I think the 2D control actually works better. The non-standard set works better.
In the sense that you're talking about, I could definitely see it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you didn't get turned around every 5 seconds, JJ. That's what
no,
I'm hearing.
that's the why I changed
That's
it.
unfortunate. Ugh.
But no, man, just all of the things I can talk about with this game. But I think if I have to choose one more thing to talk about, I'd like to talk about the abstract daddy enemy, which comes in much, much later in the game. You first meet it in the labyrinth, and Angela Orozco, the young woman who unfortunately lets herself die in a fire, she's trying to fight it, but then you actually come in and kill it for her, and it's a boss fight. Basically, the abstract daddy enemy looks like two figures lying on a bed, one on top of the other, one in a superior position and one in an inferior position. Yeah. And it's really disturbing. And also a straightforward metaphor for the sexual assault that Angela suffered.
That was definitely one of the most obvious ones.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Later on at the Lakeview Hotel, independent of where Angela is, they start showing up for James later in a weaker form. And you have to fight them in the final level at the Lakeview Hotel. And I think the reason for this is because James actually saw the abstract daddy, and he mistook it for himself strangling Mary, his wife, instead of what it was for Angela, and thus it began appearing for him in a weaker form. Two figures atop one another can be sexual assault, or it can be physical assault, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so James interpreted it as that for him, and then that enemy later showed up for him. The last major point I want to bring up is the character of Laura, the little girl, who this kind of proves everything I've already said. She first shows up, and she's just a bratty little kid. Like
yes.
You really don't like her in the game at all. But there's actually a good reason for this. She was with Mary in the hospital for a long time. And, she probably spent at least a few months making friends with Mary, and she's Mary's friend. She went to Silent Hill in order to find Mary because she did not know that Mary had died. But here's the thing. For example, when you rescue her at the hospital, James is like, I can't believe Laura, I can't believe you don't have a scratch on you. And Laura's just confused, and she says, why would I be scratched? And then later, when you're leaving the hospital, you see her running down the street, and you go to the Lakeview Hotel where she's already there and has been there for a while and is just playing the piano normally, like nothing's happened. And that's because for Laura, nothing has happened. She has no internalized guilt, no internalized sin. Ergo, the town has no power over her. She probably can't see any of the monsters. She has no internal demons herself. And she probably doesn't have to deal with all of the pitfalls and weird face puzzles that James has to deal with in his own journey through the town, right? And so she is free of sin, and thus she is free of the town. Is probably to her, the town is just like some weird, foggy, empty town for some reason, and she can't find her friend Mary, and that's it. Because the town has no power over her, she has no internalized guilt or sin to deal with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I remember playing through it, and I'm like, this. I actually, part of me wanted to think that maybe she was like just another part of something in James's mind, because I was like, she's not reacting like a normal girl would with all these monsters and stuff around.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is wrong with this kid? She's just being a brat and acting like there's not stuff out there that's trying to kill us. And but I mean, when you put it that way, it makes total sense.
Yeah, and for example, when she in the Brookhaven Hospital, where she locks you in with one of the bosses,
Yep.
like that seems like she's trying to kill you, but in reality, she's not. She's just playing a joke on James. To her, the monster isn't even there. Right?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
She just doesn't like James because Mary probably always complained about James to her, when they were friends.
Yeah.
Because as we know, Mary, had kind of a duplicitous attitude towards James near the end, where she was taking out her own self-hatred and her own guilt and her own fears of dying onto James, and that shattered their relationship to a certain extent.
Right.
And she, we can assume that Mary, when she was friends at the hospital with Laura, both complained about James and talked about how much she loved James alternatively, right? And that's why Laura treats James like she does throughout the whole game. And also why Laura seems to be immune to the town is because, well, she just is. Right? She's a little girl.
Yeah.
A pure and innocent soul. She's the Prince Mishkin of the Silent Hill universe. We can continue talking about things if you want, but I think those are the major points about Silent Hill 2 and what makes it such an incredibly brilliant game. Just as deep as the Suikoden games, really. And why I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. I think you guys know this, but if you just ignore the Suikoden games and I were to make a list of my favorite games of all time, Silent Hill 2 is probably at the top of that list,
Yeah, you told us that before. There's definitely been no question about what this game means to you, which is a big reason why we wanted to talk about it and have you back on. I think we're gonna try and kind of stay away from like the smaller stuff, because I think you definitely touched on the big areas that as to why people should check this out. Because there's still tons left that you could talk about potentially, but the fact that we've gone over so much already, and there is so much would leave it for these people to go play it and interpret these things for themselves. Definitely a great talking piece, though. Obviously,
yeah. We didn't talk about Maria at all, and we'll just leave that for people who want to go play the game, because Maria's a really interesting character too.
Yes,
yep.
She's really awesome in her own way. And the way that she just blends in with Mary is hilarious. In a sense, it's also terrifying. But you should also play Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3. Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3 are kind of odd. I mean, Silent Hill 1 right now is $6 on the PSN. Everyone should play it. It's a fantastic game. And it's not nearly as terrifying because, as I said, you can pretend it is the adventures of Lego Man in Tetanus Town.
Brian is a big fan of the Lego games, so it'll be right up his alley.
Yeah, I love Legos.
Yes. So everyone should play that. And then Silent Hill 3 is also really amazing. I think Silent Hill 3 has the best gameplay, the best puzzle design, the best combat. the best everything except for story. I like to say it like this: the first Silent Hill game is the most original. The second has the best story, and the third has the best gameplay. So, really, everyone should just play all three. So,
Do we want
Solid.
to talk about the mechanics with which the endings are selected? Because I
Oh,
thought
sure.
that was like the most brilliant thing to me.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And actually, I think Suikoden 5 actually took a little bit from this with kind of a hidden mechanic system for deciding the game's ending. But in Silent Hill 2, what happens is if you read, for example, you start off with a letter from Mary in your pocket as one of your inventory items, because really half the gameplay is just inventory management anyway.
Yes.
If you take it out and you check it, every couple of hours in the game, that'll actually influence you getting the escape or Mary ending, the so-called quote-unquote good ending. Which I think that the idea of a good ending and a bad ending is kind of wrong, right? It should just be the ending you get, your ending, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But in any event, that helps you get the good ending or the Maria ending. And also, if you keep your health above 50% throughout most of the game takes that as kind of a symbol that you want to live, right? That you have that you yourself want to live on, and it'll again influence towards the good ending. Whereas if your health is down low, you don't check Mary's picture or her letter. If you stick around with Maria a long time, the game will actually take you down towards the lower endings, the so-called worse endings.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of things that influence it, but the health and the letter are the two big ones. Also, the hilarious thing is the dog ending. Like you can just go onto YouTube and type in Silent Hill 2 dog ending, and it is absolutely hilarious. It doesn't even spoil anything, I don't think, because it's just this total joke ending where a Shiba Inu dog is actually at this crazy, like, cartoonish control board, and, like, James walks in and he's like, "So you were behind everything." Oh, no, and just breaks down crying, and the dog comes up and licks his face, and it's just great. And it's got a great song too. I just love the fact that they put humor in the games too.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just that they're not taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I just thought it was brilliant the way most games with multiple endings are going to determine which ending you get based on conscious decisions, very explicit decisions you make throughout the game. But this is entirely based on the way you subconsciously act throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, Mass Effect and Deus Ex as well.
Yeah.
Where they're just conscious decisions. Oh gosh, you just reminded me about how similar the endings for Deus Ex and Mass Effect 3 are. But
Hey, they're different colors.
kind of.
Hey, red and blue and green.
But it's always some kind of explicitly stated decision, and there's always a save point right before it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember the ending for Battlefield 4, which was just so awful. There was an autosave right before it, and then it's press this button for this specific ending and press this other button for this other specific ending, and it is stupid. Like, it's
Wow.
just the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but Silent Hill 2 just had them all done decades ahead.
Witcher 3 did a very similar thing where there were choices you were making, but it wasn't like super obvious as to which path you were heading. I mean, once you look at it online, you go, "Oh, there's the clear path." But they were like innocuous, like, "Hey, make sure you just go Ciri's way the whole time."
All three of us got different endings on
Yep.
that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so JJ should totally play through it again and get the good ending, because I'm a fan of happy endings. I know that's kind of silly. Actually, the in water ending, I won't spoil it, but the in water ending is the fan favorite for Silent Hill 2, and I actually like the other ending, the good ending, because I'm a sucker for happy endings, and also because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the Silent Hill fan base. So the Suikoden fan base is a much better fan base, in my opinion. So.
Cool, man. All right. Well, as far as I think that kind of wraps it up for Silent Hill 2. As far as the Suikoden revival movement, we got to at least check in with you. Anything crazy going on coming up? Any announcements? Anything you want to plug?
No, there's really not much going on right now because the three of us, the four of us, are really busy in our private lives right now, and none of us have ever, made a dime off of Suikoden revival movement, and so it becomes somewhat difficult to keep up at it.
Absolutely.
But we are campaigning for Suikoden on Steam, which is our main objective right now. And in the coming months, we'll probably have yet another campaign for it. And that's really all that we're doing ever since we finished up our second Yoshitaka Murayama interview.
Awesome. Do you have any thoughts on the new Metal Gear Solid announcement?
I purposefully avoided news about that because it would just be too depressing.
It is as depressing as you would imagine.
I mean,
think
we were talking about the true meaning of horror, so
Yeah, I think they confused Metal Gear with Resident Evil at some point and thought they were making a Resident Evil game. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of room for camp horror. I actually love camp horror, but you need to understand it's not a form of horror; it's a form of comedy, right? That's literally all it is.
Absolutely.
You're like, ha ha, hey, that werewolf ate that guy while he was on the toilet. Ha ha ha,
Right.
And it's great. It's fun, right? It's fun stuff. So when I talk about losing our way with horror, I'm talking more about quote unquote serious horror. And Resident Evil is definitely camp horror. And I actually like the Resident Evil games up to Resident Evil 4, right? The new Metal Gear game, though, doesn't look like it really has much in the way of that kind of camp humor. At least so far. They may add some in.
I don't know what to make of it.
I'm confused at this point.
It sounds like just a money grab.
There's a fan theory out there that I read that was hilarious that basically said Konami, because everyone's confused, like, hey, you're trying to get out of the video game industry, what gives? They're just literally still trying to stick it to Kojima. Like, they're still, like, a huge feud, and they're like, hey, watch us turn your favorite franchise into a bastard child. That's kind of what the theory, detailed.
Nah, they like money too much to waste money on revenge.
Yeah, I think because Kojima never wanted to continue Metal Gear after Metal Gear Solid 2 for crying out loud. Like he continued it for 13 years on after he wanted to be done with it because it was just so draining on him and everything. And I don't think that if it is some type of vengeance, I don't think it's going to be effective because Kojima probably doesn't. He cares about the Metal Gear fans, but he doesn't really care that much about the Metal Gear universe anymore.
Yeah, true.
Is what I think. Kojima is always cool to his fans. That's one of the good things about him.
Yeah.
I think he definitely has his absolutely brilliant moments as a game developer, and he also has some really stupid moments too.
The oil baby.
Yeah.
Hey, Norman Reedus was definitely preggers with that baby. All right.
He's a truly brilliant man, and like all brilliant men, they fail hard when they fail.
Yeah.
And but overall, I like him because he's cool to his fans and he's dedicated to what he does. He's a true artist. Mm-hmm. And so I wish him all the best. And I hope that it works out. But the oil baby was probably, I don't know what he was thinking.
It was head scratching. Everyone was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're
there's
still
that.
not sure what to make of it.
Nah.
So overall, and Metal Gear Solid 3 was an amazing experience. So, all the best to Kojima. I think hopefully Konami just gets over it and makes a new Suikoden.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it'll be Suikoden Survival.
Oh God!
Oh, don't. That's not even funny. That's not funny.
Hey guys, no, actually, it'll be Suikodenvania.
Yeah.
That would actually be cool. No,
Yeah.
it would need to be like Suikoden and Contra to be really, really bad.
Oh yeah,
That would be awful.
There you go.
Co-op Suikoden. Shoot down those enemies.
Suikoden Football Manager.
Yeah.
You would buy that, Mark? Don't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. I have no.
Well,
I would probably buy it
too,
too.
I'd make
Yes,
Remio
me
my
too.
coach.
I would cry the whole time while playing it.
This is not what I remember.
Where are all the subtle use of metaphor?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out once again to hang out with us and just give us such amazing insight on this stuff. I mean, I played the game, enjoyed it, but once again, you just open our eyes to what the game actually has below the surface, which is just so cool. Can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah, well, like as I said, I've had the advantage of playing this game for like 14 years now or something. So like I've played it over so many times. Like you really have to start thinking about this stuff the more you play it.
I'm sure, absolutely.
But it's great to be back, guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it there. We're gonna kick it back over to us in the studio. But again, thank you so much, and we'll keep our eyes open for anything coming up with the SRM, and be sure to plug it for you guys. And to everybody listening, just because they don't have a hashtag campaign going on doesn't mean you shouldn't be hashtagging and saying, "Hey, give us Suikoden 6," or "Give us Suikoden on Steam."
Yeah.
So keep it up, keep doing it.
That's
Let
the
them
attitude.
know. So. All right, man. Well, you take care. We're going to head out. We have a fantasy football draft tonight, too. So that'll be fun.
Oh, Mark is going all numbers.
Yeah, it's true. He is. All right, man. Well, take it easy. Appreciate you stopping by. And we're back with just the three of us. Man, that dude always blows my mind every time.
Fireside Gaming Chats with Ryan.
Like, man, all 90% of that stuff I probably would not have figured out on my own.
Yeah.
But it's really, really just honestly, I had no plans on going back and playing it again. I almost kind of want to do it now, though.
That's a pretty fantastic game.
I'll put it back on the backlog. Dang it. Anyways, yeah, big shout out to Ryan and thank you so much, man. It's always great having you on. I mean, I think that about wraps it up for this one.
Yeah.
So next episode, you guys are gonna be free, no guidance.
Chaos!
That's
Oh, boy.
exactly what the episode's going to be like.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Get ready.
The Frozen North,
All right.
episode 1426.
Inaccurate.
That's not
The Fool's North, episode 95.
The Fool's Northern Lantern.
There we go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
It's like the
I
Northern
can tell.
Lights.
It's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
In-depth discussion.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk a lot about food for my
Yeah.
body.
JJ, I just wanted to say that I'm happy to be back on the show.
Thanks, Mark.
Top 5 things
And,
JJ should have done differently with the Frozen North.
Link's Awakening's definitely the best one because Link's awake in that one.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a very exciting game if he was asleep the whole time.
Hi, Mark. It's you, Mark.
What?
Hi.
Okay. Thank you once again for tuning in. We really appreciate the support. And show us some love on iTunes.
Hey, man.
Please. Do it. And YouTube. YouTube especially. Really like to get some more traffic over there.
Subscribe.
That's all I got. You guys got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, then, signing off for the Frozen North, episode number 94. I will be back in episode number 96. My name is JJ.
I'm Eeyore.
I'm your ear.
What?
You really crafted bed with that one.
Yeah.
I'm your ear.
As always, keep on gaming.
Our theme song was made available through the Creative Commons Attribution license by Ziffoid. The song title is Radical Fanfare.